A welcome sight for Bills fans after more than a week of sitting out of practice while waiting a new contract. Running back James Cook was back at practice on Tuesday for the first time since. And here was head coach Sean McDermott before practice on Tuesday when asked if anything had changed with Cook's situation.
I would say so. I would say so that things have changed, Elena, and yes, we've had conversations with James, good conversations, as I've mentioned before, and the information that we're getting is that he is moving in the direction of practicing today. So, we'll see in a few minutes here, but that's the information we've gotten. So.
Is that from James himself, just to clarify that?
I don't think it's necessary to get into the weeds on it. But, the most important thing is that he is expected to practice, and I'm rather confident that that's going to happen.
Another day, another missed practice for Matthew Stafford. After originally planning to return on Monday, Stafford proceeded to miss that practice. And then Tuesday, he missed that session as well as he continues to nurse a lingering back injury. The Rams open up their season September 7th against the Texans. And time will tell if Stafford will be ready under center for that one. Concerning news for the Packers, QB Jordan Love is getting a procedure to repair a ligament issue with his left thumb. Love was injured in the preseason opener against the Jets. Now, Green Bay hopes Love will return to practice next week and expect him to be healthy for Week 1 against the Lions. Here's more from General Manager Brian Gutekunst.
I don't like any of our guys to miss time. I think it's important for all our guys to be out there. It certainly affects performance when you're not out there, but at the same time, I think we'll get him back in plenty of time. And I don't foresee this affecting him, long term at all. I think he had some options, with what he could do. Obviously, you guys saw him out there. He certainly was able to function. But as we looked at all the options, and he did as well, the best option I think for him to get back, the fastest and feel the best was to do this. And I think he wanted to go out there yesterday to kind of see how it felt. And once we got through that, we made the decision, and he should be, back. He should meet us in Indy on Wednesday.
From the current Packers franchise QB to a former one, Aaron Rodgers is once again unhappy. The specific helmet he wore last season is now banned by the league for failing to meet new safety standards. He's now adjusting to a new model and isn't exactly a fan. Take a listen.
Yeah, I still don't like it. No, I don't like it. No, I'm trying to change. We're in the process still. Looks like a damn spaceship out there. I got to change it. The face mask doesn't fit the helmet because that's an old face mask, obviously, just like I'm old. But we're trying to find the right helmet right now.
Rodgers didn't exactly play his best with the helmet he was more comfortable in. He had career lows in losses, yards per attempt, and passer rating. Pittsburgh is obviously hoping for improved production this season. James Cook is still looking for a new contract from the Bills, but he showed up for the first time in a week and actually practiced on Tuesday. Cook was tied for the lead in rushing touchdowns last year with 16, and he rushed for over 1,000 yards as he looks to earn a big payday this season. Time now to bring in CBS Sports NFL analysts Ryan Wilson and John Breech. And y'all, I'm sure the Bills players and coaches, as you heard Sean McDermott earlier, are relieved to see Cook actually practicing during the ongoing contract issue. Ryan, I'll start with you. How significant is this for the team, understanding how pivotal he is to this team's success?
Hey, Chris. Hey, John. Good to see you guys. It's good news. It's not great news. It's not like Christian McCaffrey coming back, and that's no disrespect to James Cook, because as we've talked about before, when James held out last week, this is all about Josh Allen, and they spent a ton of draft picks on the defensive side of the ball because they knew that's where they needed to get better. James Cook is an integral part of this offense, but this offense still works without James Cook, and I think the larger question becomes, what kind of money is James Cook going to get? Because we saw Kyron Williams just get a $33 million deal over 3 years, which averages out to $11 million a year. He just missed this graphic, and I think there's an opportunity for Alvin Kamara to still be where he is after James gets paid. He might be to the right of Alvin Kamara on this graphic, sub $12 million. So it's great to have him back. They do need playmakers because there's still questions about the wide receiver room being explosive and consistently being able to get open, but this offense will go as far as Josh Allen, the O-line, takes him. They're both doing great so far. Then the other question is, how much are you going to pay James Cook, and will he be happy with that if it's not, say, north of $12 million?
One thing that's interesting about this whole situation is that it has been possibly the friendliest contract dispute in NFL history. James Cook wants to get paid. He showed up to training camp. He practiced for a little bit. He wanted to make a statement, so he sat out of practice, and now he's back in practice. And I think one interesting part here is that Cook has been pretty vocal about the number he's looking for. That's $15 million per year. We just saw on that graphic. That's Derrick Henry money. I don't think the Bills want to give him Derrick Henry money, and that's where this dispute arises. So it's one of those things. Ryan says he doesn't think he'll top Alvin Kamara money. I think he'll slot in somewhere between Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara at $12.3 and $14 million per year. And you do need James Cook if you're the Bills offense. It's great that Josh Allen is the reigning MVP. He's all everything and can do everything, but he can't be Superman and carry this entire team to a Super Bowl. James Cook led the NFL in rushing touchdowns last season. He's somebody you need on this offense. Josh Allen is a great quarterback, but it helps him very much to have a sidekick. And when that sidekick is scoring 16 rushing touchdowns, that helps even more. So I think it's huge for Buffalo to get James Cook in there practicing and then eventually getting this contract done so that he's on the field in week 1.
John, you brought up the fact that this has been the friendliest, right, hold-in. And when you look at other players around the league like Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons, how do you think this sits with the Bills' teammates, right, or James Cook's teammates, when you look at the way that he's handled this with a much different, I guess, flair and approach than some other players? And not saying, you know, one is better than the other, but it's clearly something that is different than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look in Dallas and Washington right now with Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin, both those guys made trade requests. So that makes things a little bit awkward in the locker room, although everyone in Dallas understands that Jerry Jones is like pushing Micah Parsons out the door. And then the Trey Hendrickson situation in Cincinnati, he's showing up to practice every day. So it's not a situation that's making a lot of headlines. He's helping out the defensive players there. But I think the fact that James Cook is on the field practicing, that I'm sure everyone in that locker room appreciates that. And so that kind of goodwill, I think, could make the front office more inclined to get a deal done closer to the number that Cook would like.
Now let's go out west to L.A., y'all. Matthew Stafford failed to practice yet again due to his lingering back issues that caused him to take an epidural. We know Stafford, Ryan, is one of the toughest guys in the league. But at what point do you start worrying about his availability for the season? Or do you think I'm overreacting in that point there?
I was worried about 2 weeks ago because the thing about back injuries and older age, and he's still sub 40, but he's getting up there, is that back injuries don't get better. It's not like even an ACL, which you could get repaired and then get back to 100% health, and usually the hurdle is a mental one. Back issues are back issues. Usually they linger for the duration of whatever you're doing that requires you to move around the way Matthew Stafford does. It's a huge concern. Now, they have Jimmy G on the roster. Is Jimmy G a short-term solution? Sure. Is he a long-term solution? No, he is not. Stetson Bennett's on the roster, and I think it's a real concern because this team has a chance to not only compete in this division but make a deep run, and we know how good they can be when Matthew Stafford is locked in. Cooper Kupp's gone, but Puka Nakua's back. That defense is going to be lights out, and they just re-upped Kyron Williams, which you just talked about. So there are a lot of reasons to like this Rams team, but just like talking about the Bills, they'll go as far as Josh Allen takes them. Matthew Stafford is incredibly important to what the Rams want to do, and if you're looking ahead 6, 7, 8 months. The good news is they have 2 first-round picks. The bad news is that doesn't solve their problem in terms of the quarterback situation and the health of their current quarterback in the 2025 season. So I'm pretty concerned about this. And if I know Breech, who overreacts way more than I do, he's probably frantic about the news of that back injury with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the top number is on the concern level scale, but that's where I am. This is a 9.0 on the Richter scale. This is not a good situation if you're the Los Angeles Rams. Chris, you mentioned that Matthew Stafford is one of the toughest players in the NFL. Well, one of the toughest players in the NFL has been in so much pain that he can't practice. That is how concerning this is. And as Ryan mentioned, back injuries are completely different. They can flare up at any point. We saw Matthew Stafford go out and throw roughly 60 passes on Saturday, and then the Rams were hoping to have him back in practice on Monday. Well, what happened? His back injury flared up from throwing those 60 passes. Well, you have to throw passes during the NFL season. So if you have to worry about the injury flaring up because he's throwing a lot of passes, because he takes an awkward hit, because he gets out of bed on the wrong side, that's a crazy way to have your season derailed. So I think this is absolutely concerning injury, especially because we're less than 4 weeks away from the Rams' first game. So if Matthew Stafford isn't out on that practice field in the next week, then you're just incredibly concerned, and you might be staring at Jimmy Garoppolo starting in week 1.
Yeah, I don't know if Rams fans want that. We all know the ceiling that Jimmy G has as a QB. Now, speaking of being injured, Jordan Love had surgery on his left thumb after injuring it in the preseason. It's his 4th separate injury in the last 2 seasons, y'all. He's expected, though, to be ready for week 1. And Green Bay, they're not panicking. But, Ryan, what's your level of concern that this could be a sign of things to come?
You know, our buddy Rick Spielman used to say when players get injured, they typically stay injured, and sometimes it's just unlucky. And Jordan, you talk about the toughness of Matthew Stafford. Jordan Love is incredibly tough. He suffered that MCL injury week 1 last year in that Brazil game against the Eagles, and that didn't derail the season, but it derailed his start to the season. Then he had the groin injury later on last year. Now he has this thumb injury. It just feels like he gets over the hump health-wise, and then something else comes into view and causes him to miss some time. And I just go back to 2023 Breech, when at the end of that playoff run, they demolished the Cowboys in Dallas in that first playoff game. Went to San Fran, had a chance to win that game in large part because of the way Jordan Love played. So you need him healthy. Matt LaFleur obviously loves Jordan Love. He needs him healthy, especially with their young wide receiver crew that stars now Matthew Golden, their first-round pick. But if he's not out there, you're talking about a Malik Willis, Sean Clifford world. And while Malik Willis looked great in spot duty a year ago, you're not building your offense around Malik Willis. You need Jordan Love to be healthy. This is not as serious as a back injury, obviously, but he has to avoid the dings that seem to keep him sidelined for a few practices here and maybe a game or 2 there.
Yeah, and this was an absolute freak injury with that left thumb, and that's the thing, is this is a reason why you see a lot of head coaches not play their starters in the preseason, because freak injuries happen. Jordan Love injury was suffered in that first preseason game, and so this is a very interesting situation, because the good news for the Packers is that Jordan Love now has just over 3 weeks to heal before they have to go out and play their opener against the Detroit Lions, and the Green Bay seems pretty confident that he's going to be out there. The bad news is, if there's any sort of setback, Jordan Love could miss the first 2 games of the season, because the Packers' schedule isn't set up very well for an ailing quarterback who's trying to come back. Not only do they play on Sunday in week 1 against the Lions, they have to turn around and play 4 days later on Thursday against the Washington Commanders. So you're staring at 2 games against teams that made at least the divisional round of the playoffs last season. And then, so if Jordan Love's thumb isn't quite healed, he could miss 2 games. I don't think it would just be 1 game just because of that fast turnaround. So everyone in Green Bay is going to be crossing their fingers and hoping that Jordan Love's thumb is ready for week 1.
Yeah, hopefully he does not have any more injuries and he's able to enjoy a long and healthy career for the rest of the way. Ryan Wilson, John Breech, we always appreciate your insight, guys. And for more, you'll want to check out With the First Pick podcast. Ryan is joined by former NFL GM Ren Carthon, breaking down everything you need to know about the NFL draft, including mock drafts, exclusive interviews, and so much more. With the First Pick, download and follow today.